Hello students, this picture shows the classroom scene. Here the teacher has instructed all the students to draw any real life object using the geometrical shapes that they have learned during mathematical class. Megha was very excited about this activity and immediately started drawing. She drew a beautiful house using the geometrical shapes. Look at this beautiful house drawn by her. Observe the shape of the windows. Can you guess what geometrical shape is used here? Yes, I'm sure most of you have got it right. It is a square. Look at the shape of the door. It is a rectangle. So basically the windows and the door are four-sided figure, which generally are called as quadrilateral. So let us learn more about quadrilateral and its type in our today's video, that is in the topic quadrilateral. Look at this quadrilateral ABCD. Quadrilateral has four sides, that is in this figure AB, BC, CD and DA. There are four angles, that is angle A, B, C and D. We have two diagonals here, that is AC and BD. Both the diagonals bisect each other. So a quadrilateral has 10 elements, that is four sides, four angles and two diagonals. Kinds of quadrilateral. Look at the first one here. We have trapezium, which has four sides, so it is a quadrilateral. And the other type is isosceles trapezium. Let us look at trapezium now here. Length of parallel sides are unequal. So you look at this parallel sides, length are unequal. So we can define a trapezium as a quadrilateral with one pair of opposite sides parallel. That is, these two sides are parallel to one another. Isosceles trapezium. Now what makes it different from a normal trapezium? Here the non-parallel sides. So if you look at these two sides which are not parallel to one another, the length is equal. So a length of non-parallel sides are equal here. So a trapezium in which non-parallel sides are equal is known as isosceles trapezium. So in our real life we come across many shapes or many objects which has trapezium shape. If you look at the popcorn box here, which is trapezium. Look at the steps here, the outer shape is in the form of trapezium. Look at the platform of the table here, which is again a trapezium. So you see, you look around, you'll find many objects which has the geometrical shapes that you have learned in your mathematical class. The next quadrilateral is kite. I'm sure you are very much familiar with this object. A kite has four sides. Now in this figure you see two pair of distinct adjacent sides are equal. So you see here AB and AD are equal, so these two sides are adjacent to one another. BC and CD are equal. Angles, only one pair of opposite angles are equal. So you see here angle B and angle D are equal, which are opposite to one another. And diagonals bisect each other and they are perpendicular to each other, which means wherever they bisect they form 90 degree. So we can define a kite as a quadrilateral with two pair of distinct adjacent sides equal. The next quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Now both the pair of opposite sides are parallel. You see here AD and BC are parallel to one another, and AB and CD are parallel to one another. So opposite sides are parallel as well as equal in length. Angles, opposite angles are equal. You see here angle A and angle C are equal to one another, and angle B and angle D are equal. Diagonals bisect each other. So we can define a parallelogram as a quadrilateral with two pair of opposite sides parallel. So the opposite sides are parallel here. The next type of quadrilateral is a rectangle. Let us now look at the properties of rectangle. Opposite sides are equal, that is AD and BC are equal, and AB and CD are equal in length. All the angles are equal in rectangle, that is each angle measures a right angle, that is it will measure 90 degree. And diagonals bisect each other and are also equal. Let us look at the similarities between a parallelogram and a rectangle. So we have two geometrical shapes here, both are quadrilateral. Let us look at the similarities. Now both the quadrilateral, we have one pair of opposite sides that are equal. In both the quadrilateral, we have opposite angles that are equal, as well as diagonals bisect each other. So these are the similarities between parallelogram and a rectangle. So how are we going to differentiate between them? So if all these properties are common, what is not common? So the main distinguishing feature will be the angles. So if you look at the rectangle, each angle measures 90 degree, whereas it is not the same in parallelogram. So we will define a rectangle as a parallelogram. It shows all the properties of a parallelogram. So we will say it is a parallelogram with one of the angle as a right angle. So some of the objects that are rectangular in shape that you must have seen, the shape of the building, a slate, the shape of the cake here, and the mobile phone, they're all rectangular. The next quadrilateral is a rhombus. Now rhombus has all sides equal. Okay, a similar property is there for one more quadrilateral, which is it? That is square. Square also has all sides equal. Opposite angles are equal. That is angle A will be equal to angle C and angle B is equal to angle D. Diagonals bisect each other and are perpendicular. So wherever they bisect, they form 90 degree. So what is the similarity between a parallelogram and a rhombus? If you see, rhombus has all the properties of parallelogram, that is opposite sides are equal, opposite angles are equal, and diagonals bisect each other. But what makes it different from parallelogram? So we will say rhombus is, it will be defined as a parallelogram in which all four sides are equal. Rhombus shows all the properties of parallelogram, but one thing what is different from parallelogram is its side. Parallelogram has opposite sides that are equal, whereas rhombus we have all four sides that are equal. So some of the objects that we come across in our real life which has rhombus like shape, you look at the piece of a cloth here which is like a rhombus, a diamond which is in the form of a rhombus here. The next quadrilateral is a square. Square has all sides equal, which is similar to rhombus. And how is it different from rhombus? The angles. The angles, if you notice, rhombus has opposite angles that are equal, whereas here all angles are equal and each angle is a right angle, which means it will measure 90 degree. Diagonals bisect each other and are also perpendicular to each other. So they form 90 degree wherever they bisect. Let us look at the similarities between a parallelogram and a square. Square shows all the properties of parallelogram, that is opposite sides and angles are equal and diagonals bisect each other. So how will you define a square? Definitely it is a parallelogram, but what is it that makes it different from parallelogram? The angles and the sides. So we will define a square as a parallelogram in which one angle is a right angle and all sides are equal. So some of the real life objects that we see around and have a square like shape. Basically every morning most of you might be eating bread, which is a square. Look at the shape of the clock here, which is again a square. So the different types of quadrilateral that we have learned is trapezium, parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, square and kite. So you can remember all the quadrilaterals by remembering these figures here, and let's see how they are connected to one another. So you can remember this chart. If you see parallelogram, it shows all the properties of trapezium, that is opposite sides are parallel. Rectangle is also a parallelogram because it shows all the properties of parallelogram, opposite sides and angles are equal. So we can say rectangle is also a parallelogram. Similarly, rhombus and square also show all the properties of parallelogram, so we can say they are also a parallelogram. Square also is a rectangle because it shows all the properties of rectangle. Opposite sides and angles are equal and each angle measures 90 degree. So a square is a parallelogram as well as a rectangle. Square is also a rhombus because all four sides are equal and opposite sides are equal. Whereas kite does not show any property of parallelogram. Parallelogram has opposite sides equal, which is not the same in the case of kite. Kite has the adjacent sides that are equal, so it will come under the category of quadrilateral because it is a four-sided figure, closed figure. So you remember this diagram here, and you'll be able to connect each quadrilateral with the other one, and it will be easy for you to remember their properties as well. Let us now identify the types of quadrilateral. It's evaluation time now. It is a quadrilateral with one pair of opposite sides parallel. I give you 2 seconds to guess the answer. Okay, the answer is trapezium. Let us now move on to the next question. A parallelogram with all four sides equal. Which is the parallelogram which has all four sides equal? We have square and rhombus. What are the similarities between rectangle and a parallelogram? I'm sure most of you have got it. That is opposite sides, opposite angles are equal and diagonals bisect each other. Which is the quadrilateral that has two distinct adjacent sides equal? Yes, it is a kite. Define a rectangle. A parallelogram with one angle as right angle. So in our today's class we have learned the properties of different types of quadrilateral, that is parallelogram, rectangle, square and rhombus and kite. Thank you, students.